Hello my friends, and welcome. This is a story about the deportation of Irish immigrants during the 1800s, from the US, and back to the UK and Ireland. Did you know that 33 million Americans, which equates to 10.1% of the total population, identified as being Irish in the 2017 American Community Survey, conducted by the US Census Bureau? This compares with a population of 6.9 million people on the island of Ireland. Irish Americans make up at least 5% of the population in most counties across the US, and 10% or more in New England, New York State, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. The city with the smallest Irish population is Miami, with just 1%. On the other end of the scale, two noticeable examples of areas with high populations of Irish include Boston with 24%, and 45% of those in Breezy Point, a neighborhood of Queens, New York, all considering themselves of Irish descent. According to a 1500-year-old Irish tale, Saint Brendan embarked on one particularly epic journey at the grand old age of 93 and became the first Irish person to set foot on American soil. And we have been here ever since. But did you know that in the 19th century, Atlantic seaboard states, especially Massachusetts, systematically deported indigent Irish immigrants back to Ireland and Britain? Here are the experiences of some of those Irish deportees. Mary Williams gave birth to her daughter Bridget, in Massachusetts, shortly after landing in New York. In 1855. Becoming destitute, the mother and the daughter entered a public almshouse in Massachusetts. In May of the year, discovering Mary's Irish-born status, Massachusetts' officials forcibly sent her to Liverpool with Bridget, who was a native-born U.S. citizen. This deportation was doubly illegal. While the Massachusetts law limited overseas banishment to non-citizens, it required the officials to obtain a court warrant for removal. Massachusetts officials almost kidnapped Mary and Bridget Williams from the almshouse without such warrant and shipped them away. Some deportees experienced double deportation. In 1855, Massachusetts officials deported to Liverpool 8 female Irish paupers with mental illness. Liverpool authorities put them on board a ship to Dublin. 5 of the deportees, Anne Arbuthnot, Mary Shiel, Hannah, Irvin, Anne Taggart and Mary Sheeby, were found by a Dublin official, wandering about the quay, not knowing what to do or where to go, and taken to the North Union Dublin workhouse. Being banished first from the United States, and then from Britain, the Irish migrant poor were indeed stateless people. Anne Gray, a native of County Galway, emigrated to the United States in 1860. In 1867 she developed insanity and entered a Massachusetts almshouse. Gray's 2-year residence at the institution did not cure her insanity, and Massachusetts officials decided to deport her to Ireland in the spring of 1869, with 3 other lunatic Irish women, Abby Butler, Mary Cullen, and Esther Daly. In April, the officials sent them to New York, where they took a ship to Cork. Upon arrival in the port of Queenstown in Cork, Massachusetts immigration officials ruthlessly dumped the women on the street without any provisions for self-support, such as money, food, or clothes, a routine practice of the officials. The women roamed helplessly until a local officer of Cork accidentally found them. Some deportees experienced what might be called double deportation. John McCarthy had emigrated from the town of Tralee to America, and naturalized to become a U.S. citizen. During the American Civil War, he enlisted in the Union Army. After the war, he suffered from poor health and returned to Ireland. In late May 1883, McCarthy and his wife received assistance from Tralee poor law officials to emigrate to New York. A few weeks after landing, McCarthy and his wife lost all their money and applied for relief from New York's immigration officials. They told the couple that the wife, who was then blind, should go back to Ireland. McCarthy tried to claim public relief for himself and his wife, on the basis of his American citizenship. But the New York officials ultimately sent both of them back to Ireland, viewing them as unwanted burdens on American society. In 1859, a local official in Liverpool, who had witnessed the landing of 16 Irish deportees, in a state of extreme destitution, remarked that he never saw a more miserable lot of people. Debilitated during the transatlantic voyage, some deportees died soon after their return to Europe. Nativist officials also had little hesitation to legally expel the indigent Irish, by disregarding procedural requirements for removal. Opponents of deportation condemned these officials for forcibly sending human beings across the Atlantic with less recorded authorization than goes to the sending of a tub of butter or a barrel of apples from Fitchburg to Boston. Unlawfully banished people included some Irish-American citizens, such as native-born children and naturalized immigrants. Massachusetts law provided that any foreign pauper could be sent to any place beyond the sea, where he belongs. In the eyes of nativists, destitute Irish Americans were foreign and belonged to Ireland, rather than the United States. Irish Americans criticized citizen deportation as vile tyranny, but nativists justified it as a necessary and sound measure to reduce the burden of the lazy, ungrateful, lying and thieving population of Old Ireland. For them, the more vigorously this deportation law was executed, the better it would be. Poverty, indeed, was a crime punishable with expulsion in 19th-century America, and intense ethnic prejudice rendered the Irish rightless and the most vulnerable to the deportation policy. Left in the hands of hostile officers, the policy easily lost legal fairness and integrity in its practical implementation. The expulsion of the Irish in the 19th century laid the foundations for many of the central features of contemporary American deportation policy, such as the uncivil manners and illegality of removal, the disregard for deportees' basic welfare and the rights of their citizen family members, and the notion that deportees never belong to the United States. If American deportation policy matters to the Irish, that is not only because of undocumented Irish immigrants in America today, but also because of the fact that the policy fundamentally originated from anti-Irish nativism. And that, my friends, was another story, looking at the other side to our history. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.